Our thought I always want to bring out is that, beloved, I wish above all things that thou mayest prosper and be in health, even as thy soul prospereth. And that is my heart's desire. And I praise God for the thought that it is his desire. We can ask anything according to his will, and he giveth it to us. That is a promise in the Bible, and we know that it is his will that we have good health, so we can claim that with assurance. So tonight we're going to talk about weight loss. And so we have several things here that we know for sure that will take care of weight loss. You don't have to take a pill. You don't have to starve yourself. If you follow this, especially, we have found that those that come to White Creek Wellness Center and they get on our eating program, they lose a pound a day on average. Some lose more, some lose less. And depends on how, what their lifestyle was like before they came. So no refined products is one, and we're going to talk a little bit about those refined products. Exercise and no supper. And no supper is a big one. It will give you benefits other than just weight loss, because when you go to bed at night and you have food in your stomach, then your body's energy goes into digesting that food. And when it's empty, it goes into healing the body. The only time your body heals is when you're sleeping. And so this no supper is the best thing. And I'm going to be also talking about the circadian rhythms, why there's a certain time we should be eating, a certain time we should be sleeping, a certain time we should be digesting food, and certain time our body heals. So there's certain times that we need to be eating, drinking our water, going to bed, all these. And we're going to go into that on another Zoom session, not tonight. Also drinking water. And this is 100% guarantee that you will obtain weight loss, optimal weight loss. Now I want to share a testimony because, people like to come to White Creek, and there was a lady that wanted to come to lose weight specifically, and she couldn't come for a month. And so she called up and she asked, my husband answered the phone, and she said, I want to come and I want to do some things ahead of time to kind of get going on this weight loss. What can I do? Well, he didn't want to go into all about the diet and the lifestyle and everything, but he said there's one thing, a quart of water in the afternoon and spread out throughout the day. So, you could drink the whole quart at a time. That's what I do, just because I don't want to have to remember to drink my water. So when it's time to drink water, I just down it. You don't want to drink water with your meals because it'll dilute the digestive juices and you will not digest your food very well. And so we drink like a half an hour or to an hour before we eat. And if you do that, you don't get thirsty during the meal. Anyway, she lost, I think it was 20 pounds in 1 month before she came. And so she was very excited, and I thought that was a wonderful testimony. Now, also with weight loss, I want you to take a look at this picture and think about this. What do you see in this picture besides the fact they're wearing 3D eyeglasses? I want you to take a look at how close they're sitting together. Are they eating anything? And are there any heavyweight people? This is so interesting. This was in the 50s. And the chairs are very close together because everyone was thin back then. What is it about the fact that we are gaining so much weight in these days? Well, hopefully we'll be able to answer that question. All right. A lot of people think we need to go on the Atkins diet, or what's another one that's so popular that they do nowadays? There's hardly any carbohydrates and lots of meat and lots of fat. The keto diet, yeah. But there is a wonderful diet that we can enjoy, and we can have plenty of carbohydrates. And why should we eat carbohydrate foods? Because this is where our vitamin C, vitamin E, our carotenoids, our phytochemicals, magnesium, potassium, B vitamins, trace minerals, and our energy comes from. And so we use 100% of the energy that we get from carbs. Now, the reason why they lose weight on the keto diet and the high protein diet is because of the fact that they are, you only utilize 58% of the protein that you eat as energy. And so it takes a lot of energy just to process that protein. And so it makes your body work hard, but you're not getting the energy that you really want. Okay, so it's how to lose weight. It's all in the math. The lose weight formula. You take in less calories, and the less calories you intake, the more calories you burn, then you have weight loss. So eat, but but you can still eat plenty, and this is what we're going to go into in this talk here, is that you can eat a lot of food and you can still lose weight, but it's the type of food that you're eating. Okay, so the ideal diet is 1 to 20% fat, 5% protein. Well, it's 5 to 10% protein, actually. 70, 90% unrefined carbohydrates. But the standard American diet is 37% fat, 12% protein, 27% carbohydrates, mostly refined, and 24% refined sugar. And so this is what we need to focus on, is how to get in these unrefined carbohydrates. And so increase unrefined, unprocessed carbs. And here's an example of those foods. So we have here nuts, fruits, and vegetables, and of course beans and grains is included. And here's refined products, refined carbohydrates, which is white sugar, white flour, white rice, refined oils, has little or no fiber, vitamins and minerals, high in calories, high in calorie density, and we're going to talk about the calorie density, especially tonight. And these things consist of cakes, cookies, candies, pretzels, donuts, chips, and fried foods. And so here's the example of those foods. So this whole foods versus refined foods. I want you to take a look at this. A lot of people don't realize that olive oil is a refined product. And olive oil, 1 tablespoon, has 119 calories. Now, if I was going to take about the same amount of calories and I was going to eat it in the whole food as in olives, it would be about a half a can of drained olives. I like the green ripe olives, are the most delicious ones. And you would get all the vitamin A, 402 units, vitamin K, 1.4, potassium, 8 milligrams, calcium, 88 milligrams, copper, 28%, iron, 41%. But if we eat it in the olive oil, the same amount of calories, we would get 0 of all of that. And also, when we go and we eat these calories, we're going to burn them up. We're going to move our muscles. We're going to use our brain. We're going to use our eyes, but nothing is being restored. So they are called empty calories. And the thing about it is that white sugar is, for 1 tablespoon, is only 45 empty calories, where olive oil and all the other oils is 119. And next week, I am going to go into more of the difference in the oils, and especially going into omega-3 fatty acids and omega-6 fatty acids, and why one is so good for you and the other one is not, and what foods they have in them, and so and how it can cause dementia and things. So I was going to do the clapper video, but I couldn't get the sound to work, so I'm skipping that. So what is calorie density? So the number of calories in a given weight of food. So usually expressed as calories per pound. So we have like maybe a pound of broccoli and a pound of oil. We can look at the difference. We're going to look at the difference of these calories in these foods. Certain foods have more packed into them pound for pound. There can be over 40 times difference. The easiest and most accurate way to determine if a food will cause weight gain or weight loss. So if we see that it is dense with calories, we know that's a food that's going to put on weight. If it's a low dense, you will lose weight. So let's look at the food here. As we can see, broccoli, this is all the same amount of pounds. It's all 1 pound. How many calories is in broccoli? 128. And we go into oranges, 211. Oatmeal, 325. That represents the grains. Baked potatoes, 495. Red beans, this represents all the beans, 550. The breads, 1,120. Of course, cookies, and then we have nuts. Nuts are very high. You want to limit your nuts. And then, of course, all this represents all oils, 4,000 calories per pound. All right, what is satiety? We need to understand satiety and get to know the feeling of it. It's a physical feeling, being full and satisfied. The Okinawas, I was told you I was going to talk about those a little bit last week, and that I was going to talk about it this week. The Okinawas are one of the longest living groups of people. They have many centurions. And of course, now that they've introducing junk food into their society, that is being changed. But these older folks show us what is the key to longevity. And they found that they leave the table when they're 80% full. I don't know how they actually figure that out, but I'm sure that it's handed down from generation to generation. But you don't want to completely fill up your stomach to where you're full. When you feel like, oh, I could eat maybe 20% more, that's when you leave the table. And they found out also that that the Okinawas, they ate a lot of sweet potatoes, which is a high carbohydrate food. Now, the mice study also proved the same thing. They had a study of mice where they took one group of mice and they fed them the normal allotment that they ate. And then they took another group and they fed them 40% less. And they found that they lived 40% longer. And this was the study done. It's by Stacy Schultz. Leonard Garrenti was the scientist. And so 50% of all diseases is overeating. Now, if we eat less, it also helps us to clean up our DNA. It causes more metabolic enzymes, and they live 16 months longer than the normal 40 months. So here we have some examples of some low-dense, high-dense foods. So we have same amount of calories, 100 calories, 2 chicken nuggets, and I think those things are pretty small. And then a bowl of vegetable soup, 1.5 cups of vegetable lentil soup. Here we have some differences, 1 cup of cashews or 6 small baked potatoes. And here I wanted to bring out a quote from the book Counsels on Diets and Foods. This book was written over 100 years ago, and I like to refer to it because I believe that it was inspired. I believe this person, Ellen White, that wrote these books on health did not have the information that we have with the science. But she understood and given us this insight that we can have. And the Adventists that have these books, the Seventh-day Adventists, are also one of the longest living people. Especially they did a study in Loma Linda where they have shown that they are also, along with the Okinawas, some of the longest living people. But in here it says, I have been instructed that the nut foods are often used unwisely, that too large a proportion of nuts is used, that some nuts are not as wholesome as others. Almonds are preferable to peanuts, but peanuts in limited quantities may be used in connection with grains to make food nourishing and digestible. Now, next week, we're going to study and actually find out why are peanuts not as good as almonds. So here we are with some more low dense and high dense. Low dense is one small cantaloupe, and high dense is just two small low fat big Newtons. Here we go, 2-pound pineapple or 4-ounce gummy bears. Now here's 200 calories. That's potato chips or a plate full of celery. And the celery also has all those good nutrition that calms the nerves and heals the body. We have some Hershey's Kisses or a plate full of bell peppers, and pretzels or a pound of 200 pounds of, or 200 calories of broccoli. Okay, so again, you can look at that. And so on any given day, 29% of men, 44% of women are trying to lose weight. And this is the true answer. This is a connection with weight gain and cancer. And as we could see, there is a higher risk of death when you are above average weight. The purple is the men and the yellow is the women. So if you're 20 to 30%, you have a risk of being women, say 20% of risk of death. If you're overweight, if you're 30 to 40% above average, it's 23%. And if you are 40% or more, it gets up to 55% chance of risk of death for cancer. All right, here's 700 calories. And how could we lower that 700 calories of pasta? I want to give you a great example. Is you would add vegetables, and also you add taste and you add nutrition, because there's not a lot of like vitamin C and things in the whole grain pasta, but you're adding all these other nutrients that are so important for you to have. And you could even lower it even more if you wanted to, down to 1 part pasta and 3 parts vegetables. I'm going to stop sharing here for a minute and see if there's any questions or any testimonies on weight loss. Does anyone have anything? They can unmute and give us your questions or your comments that you might have, or your testimonies. How much weight have you lost already, and how much weight did you lose while you were at White Creek, while you were specifically on this program that we do? We'd like to hear from you. And then if not, we're going to go ahead and go into our study on vegetarianism from the Bible.
Kathy?
Yes.
I lost 7 pounds when I was at White Creek.
Okay, and how many days were you there?
7.
7 days, that's what I said. The average is a pound a day on this program until you level out to where you're supposed to be. And don't be afraid if you're underweight, because it also is the answer to gaining weight. Because when you coat your food with oil and coat all the cells of that, lettuce food, and you eat it, what happens is your body doesn't assimilate the nutrition. It's all locked up. And so your body is possibly needing more nutrition. It's needing to be cleansed with a lot of fruit. And this is what fruit does. It goes in, it cleanses every cell of the body. If you take olive oil and lemon and you shake it, and you'll find that it emulsifies it. So it does the lemon and the sour fruits and the grapefruit, pineapple, all these things go in and circulate through the body, through the lymphatic system, and it will clean up the cells, kind of wash the cells. So now it can take up sugar and get rid of its toxins. So does anybody else have any comments or thoughts or questions? All right, we'll go back. We'll go into vegetarianism from the Bible. Now we're going to go into another section, which is the children of Abraham, how they were affected by flesh eating. Okay, so it says here, although the use of flesh of clean animals was tolerated in the days of the apostles, it is the purpose of the gospel to restore all things, including the Edenic diet. And we know that this restoration is to happen. I want to read a quote from Patriarchs and Prophets, and this can give us an idea of what happened, after the flood, after Abraham, and what happened during his life, and why they went into Egypt, and then they came out and they went through the wilderness. And there's a really wonderful object lesson as to what happened from coming out of Egypt and going into Canaan. Okay, it says, as men again departed from God, this is after the flood, men again departed from God, the Lord chose Abraham, of whom he declared, Abraham obeyed my voice and kept my charge, my commandments, my statutes, and my laws. It's found in Genesis 26:5. So this is why God chose him. It says, to him was given the rite of circumcision, which was a sign that those who received it were devoted to the service of God, a pledge that they would remain separate from idolatry and would obey the law of God. The failure of Abraham's descendants to keep this pledge, as shown in their disposition to form alliances with the heathen and adopt their practices, was the cause of their sojourn and bondage in Egypt. But in their intercourse with idolaters and their forced submission to the Egyptians, the divine precepts became still further corrupted with the vile and cruel teachings of heathenism. Therefore, when the Lord brought them forth from Egypt, he came down from Sinai, enshrouded in glory and surrounded by his angels, and in awful majesty spoke his law in the hearing of all the people. So, when they left Egypt, they were already corrupted with the teachings of heathenism. They were corrupted with a diet that they had adopted and the practices that they had adopted in Egypt. And God wanted to take them out of this. But let's find out what happens. And also I wanted to talk a little bit about the restoration. It says, all things restored are being restored in the last days. And this is found in Acts 3:19. It says, 19 through 21. It says, repent ye therefore and be converted, that your sins may be blotted out, when the times of refreshing shall come from the presence of the Lord. And this is what we're looking for, is the latter rain. We need to be prepared for it. And this is part of how it is going to be, we are going to be prepared, is by restoring back to the Edenic program, the plan that God gave us in the beginning. It says, and he shall send Jesus Christ, which was preached unto you, whom the heaven must receive until the times of restitution of all things, which God hath spoken by the mouth of all his holy prophets since the world began. And we're in the time of restitution. We are in the time where in 1844, we entered into that period where in the most holy place is the Ark of God. It also has the manna and Aaron's rod that budded. And so here we have three things. We have the Ten Commandments, of course, which is totally going to be restored, including all of them, even the fourth commandment. And we have the pot of manna. And what does that pot of manna represent? It represents the diet that God wanted the children of Israel to have. And we're going to look more into that diet. And then we have the rod that budded, which is ecclesiastical authority, which is important in these last days, that we have that good ecclesiastical authority over us that we can trust. All right, here's the 7 divine institutions that God gave us in the very beginning. I'm not going to go into detail Each one is like a separate study. But just to give us an idea, the Sabbath was given to us at creation. That was the seventh day God gave us that. That is going to be restored and is being restored. The diet, Genesis 1:29, if we remember what that was all about, God gave us the fruits of the earth, the fruits of the herb to eat. The tithing system is being restored. We are not to touch the tithe. There was something in Eden they were not to touch. The dress, God gave them a robe of light, which is also represented by Christ our righteousness. And then he made them coats of skin after they sinned. The marriage was given and the marriage institution needs to be sacredly observed and the vows sacredly kept. Our occupation was given, which was to dress and to keep the garden. Our education was given, which is the object lessons that we learn from the garden, which is the ABCs of education is agriculture. And that is a quote from the Spirit of Prophecy, that God gave us education, agriculture for our education, and also morning and evening worship. God met with Adam and Eve in the early morning and in the evening. These all need to be very seriously kept if we are expecting to have that outpouring of the latter rain in the last days. And this is a thought. It says, as the Lord wanted his people to give up the use of flesh foods before entering the land of Canaan, he now requires us to discard all flesh foods in the time of the end as part of our preparation for the coming of Christ and for the heavenly Canaan. And we're going to go into this. How do we know that he wanted them to give up flesh foods? We're going to study that a little bit right now. So coming out of Egypt is actually an object lesson of coming out of sin. Entering into Canaan is entering into that heavenly Canaan of eternity, and all the lessons that come from their coming out of sin, the plagues that they went through, the putting the blood on the posts so that their firstborn wouldn't die. It all has symbolic meanings. We're not going to go into all of that, but I want you to understand that these are lessons, and we're going to learn from this why flesh eating was prohibited. Okay, this is found in Healthful Living, page 282. It says, the Lord intends to bring his people back to live upon simple fruits, vegetables, and grains. He led the children of Israel into the wilderness where they could not get a flesh diet, and he gave them the bread of heaven. Man did eat angels' food, but they craved the flesh pots of Egypt and mourned and cried for flesh, notwithstanding the promise of the Lord that if they would submit to his will, he would carry them into the land of Canaan and establish them there, a pure, holy, happy people, and there should not be a feeble one in all their tribes, for he would take away all sickness from among them. And they had a hard time accepting this and understanding that in obedience was their promise. It's not that we're working our way to heaven, because I don't want to give us that idea. But if we love God with all our heart, we receive him into our hearts, we will have desires to follow him. So whenever it goes against our grain to do what God says, we know that we need to get back connected to God, because he gives us the desire to want to do these things. It's not hard. And this is what they did. They lost their connection. Okay, going on in the same book and paragraph, it says, but although they had a plain, thus saith the Lord, they mourned and wept and murmured and complained until the Lord was wroth with them, because they were so determined to have the flesh of dead animals. He gave them the very diet that he had withheld from them. The Lord would have given them flesh from the first had it been essential to their health, but he had created and redeemed them and led them the long journey in the wilderness to educate, discipline, and train them in correct habits. The Lord understood what influence flesh eating has upon the human system. He would have a people that would, in their physical appearance, bear the divine credentials, notwithstanding their long journey. He wanted them to look like health reformers. He wanted people to be able to look at them and say, look at these people. They are so fit. And what a witness for overcoming. And because, this is the big issue, is appetite. We think, well, maybe it's adultery, or it's obeying our parents, or, but the real big issue is appetite. Okay, so this is after the captivity and to the journey to Sinai. Okay, so they departed from Egypt on the 14th day of the first month. And it says that this month shall be unto you the beginning of months. Now, this is the entering in of the wilderness, heading to Canaan, coming out of Egypt. Okay. So, they're going to remember this time. Shall keep it until the 14th day of the same month, and the whole assembly of the congregation shall kill it in the evening, and they shall take the blood. Okay, this is the striking of the blood on the side post, the last plague. And it says, God says, I will pass through the land of Egypt this night, and I will smite all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, both man and beast. And so he did that, and got to the point where it came to pass that at midnight the Lord smote all the firstborn in the land of Egypt. And Pharaoh rose up in the night. He called for Moses and Aaron by night and said, rise up and get you forth from among my people, both ye and the children of Israel, and go. And the Egyptians were urgent upon the people that they might send them out of the land in haste. So here they are going out of the land of Egypt. And they journeyed from Ramses to Succoth, about 600,000 on foot. 600,000, wow. That were men, besides children and women. So there was a lot of people. Okay, so what is the great sin in the wilderness? There was, in Psalms, it says that there was a great sin. In Psalm 78, verse 17, it says, and they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And in Numbers 11, this is the actual chapter. The whole chapter goes through what happened and what this sin is. So we're going to read this very quickly. And this is why this is a 6-part lesson on vegetarianism from the Bible, because we're kind of going into detail. So every night we're going to do a little bit, every Sunday night, a little bit more. And when the people complained, it displeased the Lord, and the Lord heard it, and his anger was kindled, and the fire of the Lord burnt among them and consumed them that were in the uttermost parts of the camp. And the people cried unto Moses, and when Moses prayed unto the Lord, the fire was quenched. And he called the name of the place Taberah, because the fire of the Lord burnt among them. And the mixed multitude that was among them fell a-lusting, and the children of Israel also wept again and said, who shall give us flesh to eat? We remember the fish that we did eat in Egypt freely, the cucumbers and the melons and the leeks and the onions and the garlic. But now our soul is dried away. There is nothing at all besides this manna before our eyes. And the manna was as coriander seed, and the color thereof as the color of bdellium. And the people went about and gathered it, and ground it in mills, or beat it in a mortar, and baked it in pans, and made cakes of it. And the taste of it was a taste of fresh oil. And when the dew fell upon the camp in the night, the manna fell upon it. Then Moses heard the people weep throughout their families, every man in his door of his tent, and the anger of the Lord was kindled greatly. Moses was also displeased. And Moses said unto the Lord, wherefore hast thou afflicted thy servant? And wherefore have I not found favor in thy sight, that thou layest the burden of all this people upon me? Have I conceived all this people? Have I begotten them, that thou shouldest say unto me, carry them in thy bosom, as a nursing father beareth the sucking child, unto the land which thou swarest unto their fathers? Whence should I have flesh to give unto all this people? For they seek me, saying, give us flesh that we may eat. I am not able to bear all this people alone, because it is too heavy for me. And if thou deal thus with me, kill me, I pray thee, out of hand. if I have found favor in thy sight, and let me not see my wretchedness. And the Lord said unto Moses, Gather unto me 70 men of the elders of Israel, whom thou knowest to be the elders of the people, and officers over them, and bring them unto the tabernacle of the congregation, that they may stand there with thee. And I will come down and talk with thee, and I will take of the Spirit which is upon thee, and will put it upon them, and they shall bear the burden of the people with thee. And thou shalt bear it not thyself alone. And say unto the people, Sanctify yourself against tomorrow, and ye shall eat flesh. For ye have wept in the ears of the Lord, saying, Who shall give us flesh to eat? For it was well with us in Egypt. Therefore the Lord will give you flesh, and ye shall eat. Ye shall not eat 1 day, nor 2 days, nor 5 days, neither 10 days, nor 20 days, but even a whole month, until it come out of at your nostrils, and it be loathsome unto you, because that ye have despised the Lord which is among you, and have wept before him, saying, Why came we forth out of Egypt? And Moses said, The people among whom I am are 600,000 footmen, and thou hast said, I will give them flesh, that they may eat a whole month? Shall the flocks and herds be slain for them to suffice them? Or shall all the fish of the sea be gathered together for them to suffice them? And the Lord said unto Moses, Is the Lord's hand waxed short? Thou shalt see now whether my word shall come to pass unto thee or not. And Moses went out and told the people the words of the Lord, and gathered the 70 men and the elders of the people, and set them round about the tabernacle. And the Lord came down in a cloud, and spake unto him, and took of the Spirit that was upon him, and gave it unto the 70 elders. And it came to pass that when the Spirit rested upon them, they prophesied and did not cease. But there remained two of the men in the camp. The name of the one was Eliad, and the name of the others Medad. And the Spirit rested upon them, and they were of them that were written, but went not into the tabernacle, and they prophesied in the camp. And there ran a young man and told Moses, and said, Eliad and Medad do prophesy in the camp. And Joshua the son of Nun, the servant of Moses, one of his young men, answered and said, My Lord, forbid them. And Moses said unto them, Enviest thou for my sake? Would God that all the Lord's people were prophets, and that the Lord would put his Spirit upon them. And Moses gat him into the camp, and he and the elders of Israel. And there went forth a wind from the Lord, and brought quails from the sea, and let them fall by the camp, as it were a day's journey on this side, and as it were a day's journey on the other side, round about the camp, and as it were 2 cubits high upon the face of the earth. And the people stood up all that day, and all that night, and all the next day, and they gathered the quails, so that he that gathered least gathered 10 omers, and they spread them all abroad for themselves round about the camp. And while the flesh was yet between their teeth, ere it was chewed, the wrath of the Lord was kindled against the people. And the Lord smote the people with a very great plague. And he called the name of that place Kibroth Hattaavah, because there they buried the people that lusted. Okay, so that's a sad story, but God gave us, and let us remember that this coming out of Egypt, and we're going to go into more because they actually did this again right before they went into Egypt, and similar things happened. So we're going to read what God says about it in Psalms. So in Psalms, it says, And they sinned yet more against him by provoking the Most High in the wilderness. And they tempted God in their heart by asking meat for their lust. Yea, they spake against God. They said, Can God furnish a table in the wilderness? Behold, he smote the rock, and the waters gushed out, and the streams overflowed. Can he give bread also? Can he provide flesh for his people? Therefore the Lord heard this and was wroth. So a fire was kindled against Jacob, and anger also came up against Israel, because they believed not in God, and trusted not in his salvation. Though he had commanded the clouds from above, and opened the door of heaven, and had rained down manna upon them to eat, and had given them of the corn of heaven. Every one did eat of the bread of the mighty man, did eat angels' food. He sent them meat to the full. He caused an east wind to blow in the heavens, and by his power he brought the south wind. He rained flesh also upon them as dust, and fowl of the wing, feathered fowls, like the sand of the sea. And he let it fall in the midst of their camp, round about their habitations, so that they did eat and were filled, for he gave them their own desires. You know, if we want something long enough, God will give it to us. It says they were not estranged from their lust, but while their meat was yet in their mouths, the wrath of God came upon them and slew the fattest of them. Now remember that. This is sin. He slew the fattest of them. For all this they sinned still, and believed not for his wondrous works. Therefore their days did he consume in vanity, and their years in trouble, when he slew them when they sow. So, brothers and sisters, this is so plain that flesh eating is prohibited. God has shown us. He's shown us what to eat in Genesis 1:29. He's shown us through this object lesson of the children of Israel. I know there's places where it says that you can eat these clean meats, but it's not God's plan. It's not his original plan. It's not for us who are on the very verge of entering into Canaan that we stop eating this flesh meat. I wanted to tell you that there's some other Zoom classes. I have 2 Zoom classes for youth. One is on Friday night, half an hour after sunset, Atlanta time. And if you go and you open it up sometime shortly after sunset, it'll say on the screen exactly what time we're going to start. And then also on Tuesday nights for the youth, if you have children, we are uplifting Christ in a book called Christ Our Savior, and we're also going through some character building stories. So these are missionary stories Friday night, character building stories, and the coming to know Christ better, because this is what, if we love him, we will serve him, we will obey him. And so this is to help our children to love Christ. And so that's 2 there. And the adult classes, of course, is the one on Sunday night, and then one on Saturday evening at 7 also, which is going to be studying through some prayer books and having some prayer sessions. So you can be thinking about that. And I was got another announcement, and then we're going to open up the screen for some more testimonies. Of course, this is simplypurehealing.com is where I have the previous Zoom classes that I did last Sunday and the Sunday before. They're already up. And if you go to health videos, it's the first 2 videos, Zoom class number 1, Zoom class number 2. And of course, this is number 3. And next session, I wanted to announce that it's going to be on the omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. It's very interesting scientific evidence on how we can keep from getting dementia, heart problems, and also continue to help us to lose weight and gain health, because this is where your fat is in the it's the free oils where you're getting too much omega-6. It's causing these problems. And then, of course, we're going to continue in the vegetarianism from the Bible. All right, I'm going to stop share. And if anyone has any comments, any questions, any testimonies, this is your time. Don't be shy.
Good evening. I have a comment. This is Maritza.
Yes.
Yes. There was no stove. There was no stove in the Garden of Eden.
Thank you.
And there will not be animals killing in heaven. So we need to think about that.
Yes. Raw food, which I haven't touched on that yet. There's going to be a whole Zoom class on raw food and how to incorporate that more into your diet, and why you should, because that's where your life is. That's where your the healing is, in the raw food. And if you've got a serious condition, autoimmune disease, cancer, any of those that you just, or if you want to just get rid of diabetes real quick, go on a raw food or raw juicing diet and you'll heal very fast. The whole food vegetarian is good, but there's some diseases that it just will not cut. Any other comments or questions? Okay, does anybody have any testimonies? I hope this has helped you to understand what to do for weight loss. It is so simple and it works. And if you have not been to White Creek and understand, why you don't eat supper and, all these things, just go to the Simply Pure Healing and go to education, general health, general information on health. There's a PDF of that written out. It's everything in a nutshell, what you need to do. The 2 meals a day, how much water to drink it, when to go to bed, all these, it's just written out real plain. It doesn't give you the why, it just gives you what you need to do. And if you trust me that this is going to help you, then you will be greatly benefited. I really
Excuse me.
Yes.
Where do you say we can find that information?
simplypurehealing.com. It's my website. It's my personal website.
Simply Pure Healing. Okay, thank you.
simplypurehealing.com.
Okay, thank you very much.
And I have a lot of video cooking demos, and I'll be making a lot more cooking demos in the near future. So next week, any other comments or questions?
Yes, I wanted to know what to do for faucet joint syndrome.
And what is the symptom?
Problems in the knees and in the feet. So it's in the feet, it's the arches, problems with the arches that have fallen.
Okay, so it's a bone problem.
Yeah, exactly. So the arches are not what they used to be, and how can they be rebuilt or not? And I believe the answer is not.
Oh, I believe they can. There is nothing that God cannot heal. Now, this is, since it's something that people think that it cannot be cured, this is something, if it's an extreme situation, then you got to do something that is extreme to cure it, which is to go on a raw food, raw juicing. There are also some herbs that are high in silica, which I actually make it for hair growth, but it's known to help with the bones, the cartilages.
Oh, I see. Where do you get these, this information online? Is it on the same one that you were saying?
Yes, if you want to go to that very first class, I actually give a slide that has the herbs on it for hair loss and high in silica. That very first class I did.
Okay.
Also, on the second, and I also give my testimony of how I completely healed a bone spur with water fasting.
Water fasting.
3-day water fast. I did once a month. By the 4th month, the bone spur was gone.
Wow. So 3 days of fasting, just having water, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yes.
Amazing.
And that was the last class. I gave information on how the body heals, how fast the body heals when you do water fasting. It cleanses so fast, and it takes old protein and things from the body, and it changes it and makes your body to heal, rejuvenate.
So which is better, the fasting or the juicing or the raw foods?
Well, you kind of need to do both. So you want to, the juicing and the raw foods go in, they clean up the cells and wash everything. The fasting breaks things up and gets the gunk ready there for the fruit to actually wash clean again. So it's a process. Go 3 days and then go on a really good high raw food diet, especially high fruits, which I'm going to do a class on that, why we want to do high fruits. But the fruit goes in and cleans every cell of the body. And so
when you're juicing, is it fruits you're juicing or is it vegetables?
Well, it's the fruit actually will do more cleansing. If you need building, like, your bones restored and things like that, then it's the vegetables. But the juice cleanses. The problem with a lot of, like, especially all of our cells, we're made up of cells, okay? So let's say your pancreas isn't working right. It's made up of cells. So the cells are surrounded by lymphatic fluid. That lymphatic fluid is a medium to help remove the toxins. So if your cells are all coated with this lymphatic system that is not, not freely flowing, it's full of mucus, it's full of toxins, it's, because you haven't drank enough water, you haven't eaten enough fruit, so it gets thick and it gets clogged up, and this is where tumors come in. This is where your lymph glands get swollen. And so you get, if you eat a lot of fruit, it opens up those lymph glands, cleanses them out, and then that fluid can wash every cell of the body. So, and then your pancreas is made of cells. So you can restore things by eating lots of fruit that will clean up the lymphatic system, because this lymphatic system surrounds your cells. You can even start growing hair. I did that. I went on a 3-year total raw food diet, high fruit. And in 1 year, my hair started growing again. It was all the way up to my shoulders. I've got some pictures. I wish I could show them to you right now, but I can't. But now, it's pretty long. So I am so thankful. And even though I went back on cooked food, even though I try not to eat a lot of cooked food, but it's still, it's still good. The first time I went on total raw food diet for 28 days, high fruit, my eyes got restored. I couldn't read tiny map print. When I was done, I could read tiny map print. So it's restoring. It's very cleansing and restoring. Fruit. And so
it's a combination of 3 things that I have to do, right? For a certain period of time.
yes, and you can call me and talk to me about it. If you get confused. So if you get stuck,
do you have an email or as well?
I don't do emails.
Oh,
No,
you
you
don't
can
do
call
email.
me. You can text me. I do, but I don't watch them as close. I've got 2 emails. One I watch a little closer is Kathy Bauer at yahoo.com. It's KathieBauer at yahoo.com. And then, of course, Simple Healing Truth. That's the name of my YouTube channel. That's the name of this class that we're doing, Simple Healing Truth. I wanted to have the same thing as my website, but I couldn't. It was already taken. But Simple Healing Truth at Gmail. Simple Healing Truth at gmail.com. Or Kathy Bauer at yahoo.com.
Okay, and you said you have also a phone number, right?
Yes, 865-256-5113.
5113. Okay, very good. Yeah, it's a learning experience.
Okay. Well, it was nice to, is there any more questions or comments before we?
Hey, Kathy,
Yes.
I had a testimony about, I went and got a bone density test for this year, and compared to last year, my bones have improved from having a raw diet and eating a little bit of cooked food.
Yes.
I have rheumatoid arthritis, so it has improved to where I have less pain. I do yoga and still exercise, and it's almost like I'm pain free.
Wonderful. Doing suppers, or did you quit doing suppers?
I do 2 meals a day.
All righty. Well, if you don't, we will go ahead and close with a word of prayer, and we'll see you next Sunday. Hopefully, next Sunday I won't be so tired. We've had a big camp meeting here. All right, so who would like to pray?
I'll pray.
Okay.
Hi, this is Hope.
Oh, thank you.
Bow our heads. Heavenly Father, we are always in awe of your love, your mercy, and your grace. We give you thanks for the word that was brought forth tonight, the teaching that is so clear in how we should behave when we have a plate of food in front of us. Help us to remember these very good instructions. Help us to refer to the scriptures and revisit the videos so that we can be sure that we're honoring your truth. We ask, God, that you would help us because we're not only eating for our own health, but we are now an example of those that watch and see us because we're witnessing for your love. And we want the world to see that you indeed are King.
Saturday night is when I'm doing the prayer. If you want to join, it's same, same Zoom number, code, and it's going to be simple. We're going to be studying a couple of books, and we're going to have a serious prayer session because we have got to get ready. The Lord is coming soon, and it's going to help us. It's going to help me too. All right, you all have a good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Good night.
Alrighty, God bless.
Good night.
Good night.